Hey everyone, we've got a great episode lined up for you here today. This is an interview with Michael Rayburn. Michael is an SEO expert, somebody I've personally learned from myself, and he's going to drop some great knowledge. We talk about Google Business Profile, some user generated signals. We also dive into some tidbits about SEO for your website, pipeline building, general SEO concepts, a little bit of Google bashing. You'll get a little bit of sentiment from Michael here about where he does and does not like Google and some of their practices, and just a ton of great information. A little bit longer in this episode, probably about an hour for total play here, so you might have to break this into chunks if you're commuting or whatever it is, but definitely worth a listen. We're going to have Michael on again in the future for sure and dive into some deeper topics and revisit some of the things we touched on here today. But check this out. I know you're going to love this episode. Here we go with Michael Rayburn. Welcome back to Local SEO Tactics, where we bring you tips and tricks to get found online. I'm your host, Jesse Dolan. Got a great episode here today interviewing Michael Rayburn. Thanks for jumping on, Michael. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while. Like we were just chatting before we started recording here. We bumped into each other a few times, got to connect and spend some extended time together, not just talking SEO at SEO Spring Training in Arizona. Gosh, over a month and change ago now at this point.
Yeah, I know.
So that was cool.
It was.
And I got to see you have a great presentation. Some of the things we're going to talk about, hopefully, in today's episode about Google's business profile, things like that. But before we dive into that, let me just tell everybody who you are, why it's important that you're on today, and how they can expect to learn from you. So Michael is here with us from Domination Simplified, a white label SEO agency, and I'll let you talk about that a little bit more in depth here in a second, Michael. But first, I did want to ask, we did a little bit of prep for this, so I've got a note here that I'd love to get you to expand on a little bit.
Okay.
You got paid before you did SEO. You got paid to jump out of planes. What are we talking about there? Doing important work or just for fun? What's going on there?
Well, I think defending the nation is important, right? So I was a
About as important as
soldier,
it gets.
pretty much, right? So I was a soldier. I was in special operations, and so it's true. I was airborne. Like my idea of being a soldier when I was young was jumping out of airplanes and foreign countries and blowing up stuff and shooting bad guys, right? So. I told the recruiter if I didn't get an airborne option, then he could find somebody else. And, I looked at the Marines and the Marines were like, well, we can't promise you anything. And I said to the Army and they're like, we have a couple airborne slots available. And so
That's all you needed. All you needed to
that's
hear
all I
at that
needed to
point.
hear. They were like, you want
So,
to jump out of the airplanes all the time or you just want to try to go to school? I was like, all the time. Right. The thing nobody tells you though is the Air Force's aircraft breaks down like 50% of the time where they'll scratch a jump, like due to weather or like aircraft failure. And that doesn't mean like, you're in the air and it stops flying. It just means that like the doors or the tailgate, whichever you're jumping out of at the time, gets stuck.
then you can't. Yeah.
And then you can't jump, right? So kind of
Tell me
sucks because
about
you
them. I'm
already.
curious. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I'm
that's all right.
curious though about your first jump. Is it something where you're just wet behind the ears, like don't even have time to think, and you're falling to the ground, or were you up there like, oh my god, maybe I made the worst decision of my life? I want to turn
No,
back now.
no, that was a basic training thought, right? So in basic training, like, I was there after a little while. And after like week 2, I'm like, what did I get myself into? I only get to sleep for 6 hours a night. Everybody screams at me every time I turn around. Like, is this what the next 4 years is going to be like? Right. Cause I'm only week 2 and it's getting long. The days are long.
Sure.
Um, the Army did a good job of putting us through training where you just kind of focus on what you're supposed to do next. And then, as you move forward, then you just end up falling out. Like, because to be honest with you, gravity does almost all of the work for you, up until the point you actually hit the ground. Um, but you just have to go out the aircraft. So in training, you go out the doors, and you fold. You kind of put your hands on your reserve chute so nothing grabs the lever and pulls it for you by accident, and you fold over a little bit, and the rest is kind of history. But it is scary when you're up on the aircraft, the first jump, because when you're in training, half the people never shut up. When you're in the aircraft, especially for those first 5 jumps, like everybody's quiet.
All in their own heads at that point, right?
Yeah, all you hear is the aircraft roar, right? And then the doors open up, and then when you're in your car, if you have 4 doors and you roll the back windows down, you feel that whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, like that. When you open the doors, that's what the pressure feels like inside of there. But when you jump out, it feels like you're in a great big video game, right? Where like when we see in movies where you see them in the camera and it looks fake on the underside, right? And that's exactly what it looks like when you're up there. It looks like you're just jumping into a great big video game.
So did you, like, after you were out of the military, did you do that recreationally? Like you liked it, had to get that rush still, or is that something you
So
left behind?
no, I left that behind. I would like to go do that again. That would be like the ultimate thing for me. Um, Later, I ended up breaking my back, and so I've always been a little hesitant because even with free fall, even though those civilian chutes so much softer landing, you could get the wrong gust. And,
Yeah.
so I have fused rods, or I have fused vertebrae and titanium rods. And, just once you get an injury like that, you don't bounce back quite as fast. And so
Right.
it makes me a little hesitant, but I sure would love to go skydiving. I have to admit, like I've done the ton, like the tunnel. They call it a tunnel, but it's just a big cylinder that you're in that's got a huge fan underneath that blows, and it blows you up. And I've done that, and that's been cool. I did that with in a special operations unit. My wife was also active duty, and um, this one guy that basically took over command realized where I came from, and he's like, "Oh my God, you got to come! This will be fun. We'll get you in the tunnel, and and then you'll have a great time." And he was right. I had a great time. So
That's got to be fun, but also like, okay, this isn't quite the same. This is close, but hard to
well,
replicate, I have to imagine.
you're still floating, right? Kind of like you would, but anyways, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a little frustrating only because I can't. Well, I probably could, but just I'm telling you, I've hit the ground hard before, and I just don't want to do that again. A little bit older, and
Hey, you are no less of a man in my book by saying I'm a little apprehensive about jumping out of an airplane again because I have titanium and fused vertebrae in my back. Like
yeah,
that's a good enough reason, man. Don't don't worry.
yeah, I would like to though. I don't know. Maybe I go have a shot of whiskey or two, and then go, and then
Yeah, that now it sounds like a good plan. Now
yeah,
now I'm on board.
loosen up a little.
Um, Let me. So I'm just kind of starting at the beginning there, and I want
Yeah.
to get to tell everybody, how you got to SEO, why you got to SEO, right?
Okay.
And we're not going to go through every single job, everything else you had, but I
No,
think it's important to highlight a few things.
sure.
You fast forward a little bit, you owned a jewelry store,
I
right?
did.
There's a transition there, but
Yeah,
and
it
that's
was a
when you
big change.
started to really get a mindset for marketing and what
Well,
it
a little bit
takes and why
before
it's
that, I
important.
actually was a power seller on eBay, right?
Okay.
And then I decided from that I actually wanted to have a jewelry store. I was going to New York City and buying loose gemstones from other companies that bought out wholesale companies. And so I was paying like 15 or 20 cents on the wholesale dollar for gemstones and then reselling them on eBay, and doing really well with it for quite a while. And I would notice that my auctions, I would see them in the searches later, but like after they were already done, right? And so but learning how to market on eBay and stuff is what actually kind of got me into really like what about marketing and how does that work and everything. And then later when I had a jewel, yeah, it is. It's kind of like Amazon, how it has its own algorithm and stuff, you know. And then also, yeah, and then also it's real business because then you have to learn, like, okay, I got to market this because this is a high, like a, like a hot product, but I got to pay extra for that. And then to cut down cost other places, I have to have a storefront. So when people buy from there, right, and then I have to have a normal amount of regular auctions and then pay the auction fee. So yeah, you still learn all that type of business stuff in there. But like I said, I decided I wanted to actually like make custom jewelry and things, and so we opened up a jewelry store a little while later. And after like some of your ads were off and stuff, and traffic starts to slow down, you're like, okay, now how do I get more traffic in the door? And then I was looking at Google, obviously, and so then I started asking questions like, okay, like, well, how do I rank a page? And then I was able to rank a page on my website that got like, I don't know, about 100,000 people a year to my website. And it sounds really stupid, but in the Indian culture, there's a thing called Shiva Lingam. It's a rock. And they a lot of times wear copper rings, and it's for metaphysical purposes. And so a copper Shiva Lingam ring, which is generally associated to people who are wanting to have more children. A lot of times they would go buy this, right? So we sold quite a few of those. But then like locally, I was like, I need more foot traffic. Like I'm understanding now the website stuff, but I need more foot traffic. And so I started asking questions of like, well, in Google, why does this one, outrank that one? Because from a user perspective, they all look the same. Right. And then I started to win. It took me 6 or 9 months, but then I started to win. And then other people started to see more people coming to my business. And then the other local businesses started asking me why. And they kind of went from there. And then with my back injuries I mentioned before, I could only sit at the bench for so long before my back was like, you're done for the day. So, and then I realized how valuable that this was and how much that like actual quality SEO was needed in this space, even today, right? Because not all SEO is created the same. And so when somebody offered, said, hey, can you do mine? I was like, well, you're a friend, sure, right? And then they said, hey, can you do my friends? And I was like, no. And they said, I'll pay you. I said, I don't care. I already have a job. And they said, well, they'll pay you, because a lot of times when somebody says they'll pay you, it's like, here's $100, right? And then they were like, no, she really needs help. And finally I was like, fine. So I was like, at the time it cost about $300 a month. And so I was like, just give me $300. I was like, but don't tell anybody. I don't want to do this for anybody else. And then of course,
Don't
what's
want to
the
be an
first
SEO.
right? And what's the first thing they do when you say that, right? And I wasn't even thinking about it. I was actually thinking that quite literally, don't tell anybody, right? Like I'm
Right.
good. I like get to play with pretty things all day long, and then, they gave me the $300. And then I remember going, well, that was stupid. I should have asked for more. And then the next thing I thought about was like, I could actually do this as a business because it's seriously needed. And honestly, I didn't cash that check for 2 weeks because I wanted to roll that around in my brain, and then I decided that with my back the way it was and being hunched over like this, like soldering and like, setting stones and having the glasses on all day long and working at things like this close to your face, that just it wasn't in my health's best interest, and that this was probably going to be something great for us. So that's the story of how like I got started with it. But yeah, I
I like
started off
that.
as a business owner.
I always have, I don't want to say more respect for people that have the journey like you did, but I think there's something to be said about if you're engaging with somebody, whether it be directly or white label, as you do a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who knows what the impact is for a business owner and not just
Mhm.
somebody who's like designs websites or generates traffic, whatever. I just think there's such more of a direct connection there for results because you understand. I'm not just trying to rank some irrelevant keyword, right? It's how do I get
Right.
people in the door? How do we get you to
Well,
win? Which means making more money as a business owner to transform their lives. There's just a different, I think, approach and mentality that you have right when you come from that
right.
end of
So
things.
like we like as SEOs, we always go like, how do we rank a business? As a prior business owner, I'm like, yeah, that's great. I want to do that. But what I want to know is like, how do I get more calls for the client? Right. And the simple answer to that is you just rank a crap ton of keywords for them. Like I'm right outside of DC, and I guarantee if you type in SEO DC, there's probably 300 to 500 searches a month, of which I would be absolutely astonished if that equivalated to 50 phone calls in total a month, right? And of those 50 phone calls, most of them go to whoever's most branded in the area. So those people fighting for the leftover 15 phone calls is kind of crazy, right? But now if I were to say, okay, that's 15 phone calls, but if I say SEO services near me, SEO near me, you know, SEO DC, SEO Washington DC, SEO services Washington DC, and like I just start stacking all of these on top of each other, right? So we end up with like 30, 40 keywords. And let's say of which I could be in the three pack for 75%, my phone's going to ring.
Yeah, it's not always just the one big sexy keyword that everybody else, like you said, has in mind. You do a little bit of due diligence, you dig up those long tail keywords, whatever you want to call it. You can have a lot of victories with that recipe. Hey everyone, just a quick message about our free SEO audit tool on localseotactics.com, and we'll get right back to the show. If you haven't taken advantage of it yet, go on out to localseotactics.com/free SEO audit, or look for the yellow button up in the top right corner, click that, and it's going to take just a couple seconds. You enter in the page that you want to optimize, what you're looking for the audit to score against, enter in that page, enter in the keyword you're looking to get optimized for, and enter in your email address, click the button, and it's going to take a few seconds, and then it's going to send you off a PDF report via email. It's a great report. It's going to kind of give you an overall score of some vital SEO areas for that page and for your website at large, even though it's auditing this page. That's going to tell you some of the good things that are happening, some of the bad things that are happening too, and give you basically a checklist of some things that you need to shore up and what you can do to improve your SEO for that page, for that keyword that you're auditing. Now you can use this as many times as you want. You can do multiple keywords, multiple pages, multiple keywords on the same page. You can even use this to check against your competitors, right? If you want to do a little reverse engineering, see how they're scoring for a certain keyword, what they may be doing good that you're not, and some things to improve there. So lots of different ways to use it, completely free. Again, go on to localseotactics.com/free SEO audit, or look for the yellow button in the top right corner of the website. So like I was saying, Michael, and I think I'd like to get to the next point, but for everybody listening and watching, yeah, I just have a lot of respect for people that come into the SEO world through that. I had a similar journey myself at a printer copier business. Like same story, right? Like we did this good. People started asking, "Can you get this done for us too?" Like reluctantly, sure. And then fast forward, right? You got your own agency and white label agency and multiple agencies at that. So yeah, if anybody listening is just wondering, right, does Michael have the wherewithal and the knowledge base to do this, or is he just coming on as a talking head? I think that was important to point out for everybody to kind of set the stage. Within that, Michael, can you talk to? We'd like to get into some GBP related discussions here. Can you maybe walk us through some of your early victories? We're on websites, but then maybe starting to play with Google My Business, seeing maybe what the differences are, and why you have a propensity to really dig into the GBP side for local businesses, why that matters to everybody.
Websites are kind of a no-brainer. Like everybody overcomplicates them, to be honest with you. And I don't want to go too in depth about link building and everything else, but um, link building is something that's key to almost any website. A lot of local sites don't really need tons of links, right? But if you want to speed it up, you should understand link building so that way you can expedite the results. Think of them as votes just to keep things simple, right? And try to target things, right? Like one of the coolest things about websites that nobody talks about in link building is if you build a few naked URL links, you can watch the keywords expand. And it's because you're forcing Google to basically figure out what your keywords are. So it's like making the spider crawl harder almost, right? And that's actually really cool. Um, and, link building gets talked about so much, but most of the time it's poor quality and presentation, truthfully. And so when people go try it, they're like, oh, I didn't get the results. And, like we get people, other SEO agencies that come to us and say, hey, I want you to rank our website for us for SEO terms, nationally. And so it's real competition. And, like we've worked with cannabis. I've worked in adult industry. I've worked in, well, I didn't work in, but I've worked with, right? Big difference there. Um, yeah. Um, and, like those are some tough niches, right? And we work with some CBD companies, and that's a tough niche. And we work in personal injury. That's really tough. So I've tried all kinds of things. I've done everything on websites from dropping 1,000 blogs in 40 days to, like just trying to optimize it to the best of ability and dropping links. So when it comes to websites, it's that. And then like the GBP or GMB, depending on how old school you are, right? Um, we have a lot. Like I think I've probably in total played with, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 of them at this point, right? Across the board. So people tell me all the time about like if they're agencies, and they'll appreciate this, that general niche agencies is a hard route to go. And they'll talk about, um, the, how difficult it is. And it's really not difficult. It just, you have to learn the fundamentals, learn what moves the needle, and then after that, take the time to understand why, right? And then from there, everything's better. But go ahead.
If we go back a little bit, I wrote a note down. I'd like you to just expand on it real quick. Everybody listening or watching may not know what you meant. Um,
Okay.
so you said, using the naked URLs and then
Yep.
how you can watch your keywords grow. A,
Yes.
would you explain to everybody real quick what you
Yes.
mean when you say naked URLs, and
Yes.
then describe what you mean by how to watch the keywords grow? How, like tangibly, like as a business owner or a marketing manager that's not an SEO expert,
Right.
what does that mean for everybody?
So normally I would use about 25 to 50 Google News approved websites. So that just means that I took the time to take a blog site, run it through Google to get it approved as a certified news site to Google. It doesn't mean that it's an actual real news site. It just means that that's what it is. And I do that because it's one more ounce of trust from Google, right? Since that's who we're all trying to make happy. Then we'll put, between 25 and 50 articles, and then whatever the URL is. So if it was localseotactics.com, right, as an example, it would be, that is what's known as an anchor, or what's the hyperlink is attached to the words, right? And then we would hyperlink that itself to itself. So it'd be, again, localseotactics.com. By doing that, it doesn't give Google any information about that link whatsoever at all, and forces it to crawl the site to figure out what the keywords are. Like I always argue about with other SEOs with their anchors, because they like to use terms like website, click here, this site, this company, and those are trash. They're wasted. Like honestly, they're wasted. You don't need them. If you take the time to understand what your keywords are and expand them out as long tail as possible and keep them as short tail as possible, most companies will end up with over 100 keywords. If you work diligently in documenting, you can never over optimize that.
Nice. And so, quite literally, when you're saying watch the keywords grow, you're talking about what you're ranking for and getting traffic and exposure for, right?
Sure. So what I mean by watch the keywords grow is if we were to use for the non-agency people listening, if you're using SEO software like SEMrush or Ahref or something similar, right? There's a million of them out there now, but like I use Ahref. Uh, and what you'll see is if we go over to keywords, we click the button, go over to keywords, and then we put it in order by date, newest date first, you'll see where it'll be like lots of movement, and then it'll be like new, as in the keywords over here. Then you'll see lots of movement, which means both up and down, right? And it'll say new. And honestly, it's not uncommon on a page of 50 to see 12 to 15 new keywords going back a couple pages like that after 2 weeks.
Now, what's your opinion on those links in general? Do you like to have some be naked, or do you also mix in some with, like you mentioned, an anchor text for everybody? So the example, if you just linked it as localseotactics.com naked, or if you said local SEO tactics show, and that was the word that would link back to the website, right? That's the anchor text. Do you mix both together? For you, is there a strategy?
So a lot of times my strategy is this: when I'm starting with a new website, obviously we're going to work with the on page. That's a given. We're going to make sure the content's optimized. We're going to make sure that the website, from top to bottom, that way it's ADA compliant. So that way they don't get sued and, right? Like I don't need to go into the deep steps here. So we'll do all that. But then I always do a batch of links initially, even though I'm doing my own keyword research for a brand and a naked URL. I always do a batch right away. And sometimes I'll do that while I'm in the middle of doing my on page. And the reason for that is I want to see what Google is going to give me versus what I want to rank for. Right. And then it gives me the opportunity to, like, what happens if I'm doing keyword research and I missed a keyword? Because we're human. We're going to miss things, right? And then Google gives it to you. Well, Google just made my job easier. And honest, exactly. Yeah, and honestly, like if it's the Google News syndications, they're not super strong links as a whole, right? Like, I mean, I'm not going to worry about metrics here, but it's not. But once I start pinging away with my high metric sites, right, that I go and I either build or I find ones that other people don't want because they don't know how to look at what's there. Um, you'll see the websites grow in metrics and Ahref, and I'm not trying to go too deep, but to kind of point something out, once a website hits like what's called a domain rating of 50, you cross where you're in the top 2 million websites ish, right? Like I'm just going to say ish because with the amount of websites coming up every day, it changes. But, and for a local guy, that's pretty significant, right? And, like if I use my strong links and I drop that on a company, usually by the time I do 30 or 40 of those, like you'll watch the domain rating go from 5 to 50 in 30 days. And, and they're strong links. I mean, they are strong links, but the other thing you see is it's not long after that, and you see the keywords go up, and you see like everything else just follows, right? And
Now you're getting that attention, right? Like it broke through to
right,
the cool crowd, the circle of trust, whatever you want to,
exactly,
think about it. And now they're starting to really explore you and see
absolutely,
what you're all about. So and
100%.
I think that's a good dive, and hopefully everybody listening that sheds some light on it. Sometimes I know
Hopefully, it's
all of
not too
us,
deep. Yeah,
yeah, we can throw stuff out and dive super deep. And I know a lot of times people listening that aren't experts are going, what the hell are you guys talking about? And how can I do something with this? So I appreciate the,
well, yeah, I teach a bunch of SEOs too, and I just blew their mind today when I started like dissecting links and explain like search links and talking to them about like you'll love this. I mean, I don't know if you realize it, but we work in search. We actually work in 3 different algorithms simultaneously, right? And you can always tell that because like when we go to google.com, everybody knows that one. It's just search, right? Just organic search. But what they don't understand is map shows up in that. So with the most recent update with Google placing local services into the maps permanently now, right? When you click on more, see more places, you'll see it change from search to local services, right? So now maps are being included in that. Then you have, google.com/maps also. And, to illustrate a point of how little that Google allows you to see into things in the newer platform that we manage our Google business profile in, when we click on to see kind of like what's been going on as far as traffic and everything on it, right? And we click on that top line there and we scroll up, it still only shows, even though we're working with all three, it still only shows maps and search, you know.
Yeah,
So
which mentally, if you were to ask me real quick, like what are we seeing on the SERP? I would give you two:
right,
search and maps, right? So
right, yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So
And that's today's version, right? That's
it is. And, a friend, his wife works for Google, and he sent me an update because they were privy with, hey, this is rolling out here in the next couple months. And search, like Google's going to kill itself because it's coming out with so many ads, like along the sides and everything else. It's going to turn into, I guarantee in the next few years, like a 1990s, like ad farm website, where it's ads across the top, the sides, the bottom, and like a little bit of like stuff in the middle.
no, I'm shuddering just remembering building and looking at those. So imprinted, I know what you're talking about. Um, yeah, and that's where I don't know, not to go too far down that road, but if Google does do that, people are still going to search somewhere if we start to not like Google. And as SEOs, we got to pivot. Still got to get found. So
Yeah, and you know what? Bing is coming around. Um, a lot of people are tired of Google, and I'm not going to say that it's better than Google because it's not, but it's coming around. And the ads, if people are paying for ads, are cheaper, and there's enough traffic that you can still get conversions for less, right? So don't underestimate.
yeah, search engine optimization, right, or search marketing. That's what we do broadly. Yeah, Google's 80% of it right now, but if that changes next year, we're still getting people found online. So um, let's talk a little deeper on the GBP side, Michael. So to your point, for your website, there's a ton of stuff you can do on your website. You're definitely highlighting the links as something to kind of break through or at least get into that circle of trust. And there's a whole recipe of what to do to your website. But for everybody listening, let's talk about some things, not like super basic GBP, like claim it, set your categories. But I'd love to hear some more advanced trickery or strategies people don't realize for in that same thing, like breaking through the circle of trust in the GBP sense that you're legitimate business, getting more exposure. Drop some knowledge on us there.
Okay. Well, we could talk about like a little bit of setup and then like what's kind of moving the needle right now, right? Um, so like the setup, like if you use Chat GBT to fill out your like so you have your category, your selected category, and do not change your category today. So please know I'm not going to tell you to do that because that's like a recipe for disaster. But if your profile's not set up the right way, if you have tons of reviews, then at that point, and you're a legit business, not a lead gen, and you're at that address, um, yeah, you could. I'm going to use the word could, okay, in quotes, could change it, but you would want to basically get ready for a video, what you call it, verification process again, because you're going to have to re-verify. Um, and go ahead and get your paperwork out that you're going to need because it's going to suspend. So get a tax document, get a business license, get a power bill. If you get like your lease agreement, or if you're buying the property, then get that. But so put all that together first, so that way you can get your profile back up and running in a few days. But make sure that category is matching up with the other top three. That's probably one of the biggest things, right?
And you said
not
other
worried
top
about,
three. Just
right.
to interrupt you real quick, you're talking the other people that are ranking right now. What is their category? If it's
Right.
not the same as yours, then you need to change yours, following your
Right.
your advice beforehand. So,
Right.
okay,
That's why I gave all that advice on the front end. So that way somebody doesn't run and go change it. And then like, oh, I don't have all that. Right. So, um, so there's that. And then, the next thing is like Google's doing a thing right now. And I only know this because I've been verifying profiles here recently, that it wants a brand. It doesn't want these keywords in there. And so, for example, there was a company that's a pressure washing company, and pressure was in their business name. It said, fine, you can have it, but it needs to be email verification. And, we all know that once we do email verification, it's going to come back like a day later, like a full 24 hours and say video. So, sure enough, that's what it did. I changed it to their abbreviated, right? Which is whatever whatever LLC. So it was a three words, so it became 3 letters LLC, even though it was in the same niche and everything, and it went straight through. I actually didn't even have to put in a phone number or a website, and it took it, right? And then later I put in both, and then it's fine, and it's been fine ever since. Did the same thing for an attorney. He lost his profile, except this one it let me keyword spam, and I think it's because it wasn't personal injury; it was a different attorney. So I think in that one it was fine because it was a lawyer and they don't want to be sued. Um, but for the rest of us, it has to be very sterile, right? Um, but if you have a keyword in there, it's going to help. It's definitely going to help still. Don't be surprised if they try to edit it or you get flagged or suspended along the way, because those are coming. Then everything else needs to be filled out basically as much as possible. Um, the one thing that I would say is I think if you want to post like a boss, right, you create, and this is where like SEO becomes fun in my opinion. So what you want to is you want to make an offer, right? And then it'd be like whatever your keyword is dash free estimate, right? Would be like your offer thing. So your keyword stuffing on purpose. So, like, let's argumentatively say that this was a pressure washing company in Miami, which it wasn't, but we'll just say it was. Then I would be like pressure washing Miami dash free estimate, and then underneath it, I would drop a link to the website in the link area, not anywhere else because Google's really finicky. Don't put your phone number in, all that type of stuff, because Google just sucks that way. And then put in a description in there. And, you want at least a 300-word description and, 300 characters as a minimum, because I think it's what, 12,000, no, 3,000 characters. So it's 3,000 characters in that. So you want to try to use up all the time as much as you can. So at least a third in characters, right? Which probably only equates to like 50, 75 words, something like that. So it's not a lot, and that's something that's actually really cool. And I do see a difference with that. The other thing I would always say is always post as many pictures as you possibly can, because that does make a difference. In the old profiles, which they gave us more information to be able to look at and analyze, I personally would see when somebody would put about 30% more photos than the rest of the people in their field, everything would go up, like literally, like the views of the photos, the link clicks, like as far as clicking on the profile, everything would go up. So that was always really beneficial. And then reviews. So what happens with reviews is that you when you're doing the reviews, it works really well, because if you coach the end person and you say, hey, it means a lot for the reviews. We work really hard for these 5-star reviews. If we could get them, like eventually, I know a lot of people say yes and they don't do them, but if they will do them, you say, and if I could just be a little bit pushy and just say, if you could say that you are happy that you hired us, or that we create some type of positive sentiment in there, and just a little bit more, just please, please, please mention the service you did. Right. And then the rest is all you. Like, just write, you want to write a book, write a book. If you want to write just that, just write just that. What happens is a friend of mine just did a test on reviews. Um, and it has that whole 2 week period of where you don't see anything, like the review sticks and then nothing happens. And then about 2 weeks later, you see a spike in rankings, right? And the reason that this happens, so everybody understands and why this is so important, is Google's used to marketers saying this, right? And the business owner going, I should rank for this. But what's happening with a review is it's the end user, right? It's the idea of why click through rate works so well, is it's the end user deciding what was important for that business. And the end user said, if it was a roofing, they put a new roof on my home, and my house looks great now. Before, the roof was all faded and it was starting to leak. And thankfully they came in and gave me a good deal. And, I would recommend them to anybody. I'm so happy with my new roof, right? That review, even in bigger cities, will help the ranking drastically over a couple weeks, because I added in the word roof and new roof and installation. And right. So if we Google roof installation, and then if I really want to knock it out of the park, I mention the city, right? It's like gold. So yeah, that's huge.
And it makes sense if you think about it. Just if we all pretend we're Google for a second. I mean, there's human beings that are at Google making decisions, right? And so they sit there. What levers can we pull, and what things can we look at to, right, see who's a marketer trying to really game our system, right? And
Right.
what
Yeah.
signals are important to be legit. This point of the client, the customer, the human being patronizing,
And one
their
part,
communication is so valuable. You know,
absolutely. Yeah. And the hardest part about all of this though, right, is that there's so many like legion people in all these fields that Google is always trying to like punish them, but they keep hurting real businesses along the way.
sure,
Right. And what I'm waiting for, truthfully, is a class action to come out on Google, for all the people that had legitimate businesses that they've suspended in the profile. They wouldn't allow the profiles to come back, because that's coming. Right. I mean, it
yeah,
literally
that's
is coming.
interesting.
Um, and it's because they're so big. Like, think about it. Like, this is why that stuff is coming. Is Google is so big right now. If Google decided just to close the doors, it would be
Yeah.
a major market disruption, not just in the United States, but in the world.
Oh yeah. Imagine if they just
Because
got rid of the maps feature, right? How many
right,
businesses are ranking in there that have crap for a
right,
website that would never get anything, but
right,
they're just in the map pack. So
right. And that's what I'm saying. So when it's not a government body that's actually governed, that is that powerful, it actually becomes a point where it's a little scary, right? And like, truthfully, there needs to be a little bit more of a equal playing field, because they meet every definition of monopoly. Um, not to kind of go down that direction, but we have to be cognitive of that as marketers and business owners, to say, hey, how can I diversify my pipeline, right? How can I diversify what's coming in? Yes, I know that 80% of that stuff is probably going to be from Google, whether it's, local services, ads, um, or, like whatever, right? Um, GBP, website rankings, like all of that. But we have to not like be so reliant on it that if something were to happen, like what would happen if Google got a virus and for just 2 days it went down? What are you going to do? Just 2 days. What are you going to do?
yeah, there's plenty of businesses that need that for their revenue goals for today, for people to just
Right.
walk in that had not known about them.
Yeah. So,
And
like
I think,
for my agency, for example, one of the ways that we diversify is like we run Facebook ads,
yeah,
right? And just as an example, and I think that everybody should start focusing on that, right?
yeah,
Um, and And it can be like, you could be like, okay, cool, I'm going to go into Bing then, and I'm going to start doing Bing marketing too. That's a great idea.
I think something that I hope everybody can kind of pull this out of this, at least I am, is the user generated signals, right? Like to your point of
Yep.
somebody leaving a
Yep.
review, throwing in these
Yep.
keywords,
Yep.
not even to mention if they attach a photo, right,
Oh
to
yeah.
the
Yeah.
review as
That's cool
well.
too.
But whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Bing or even freaking Yelp, as much as we love to hate Yelp, um, the more you can get your customers, right, giving those user generated signals to whatever the online marketing portal is,
Yeah.
I think
That's what,
everybody's
that's
understanding
what,
that's important.
yeah. I mean, that's what directories are, right? Like everybody's like, oh, directories this, directories that. And, there's still marketing companies out there blowing smoke up people's behind saying, that, your business has a comma in it, and Google's not smart enough to understand that it's the same business. And if you don't fix it, that's why you're not ranking. And you're like, well, that's funny because I'm looking at my rankings right now in a grid, not by myself, but in a grid, and we're ones for the next 10 miles around me. So can you explain to me what is not ranking? Right. And they'll be like, oh, well, your business. Like, that's great. But what? Like, give me a term. I want to look. Right. And the bottom line is like that crap hasn't mattered in almost 5 years at this point. Right. But they're still out there slinging that garbage just because they're slimy businesses. Right. And what we have to do as marketers and business owners is try to understand what's happening. And it's very difficult, especially like, like, let's be honest. I mean, if you're a carpet cleaner, a plumber, a roofer, gutters, I mean, it doesn't really matter, a lawyer, an auto mechanic, like it's really hard to stay up on that stuff, right? But find somebody that you feel like you can connect with that will at least take the time to explain to you what these things are, what they do, and doesn't matter in a yes, but no, but how and why. So, like, for example, a citation is a business name mention and it's a backlink. That's all it is, right? Like, I can turn around and create three different phone numbers for the same business, create name variations, and if my website and address are the same, Google puts it all together and it counts all the same. You know, I mean, maybe not quite 100% the same, but still, honestly, 99.8%. So,
But I think maybe some of that can matter granularly for some specific use cases. But I really like, broadly the thing you're pointing out, just how important, really, I guess I keep using the word user generated signals. But that can kind of trump everything. If you have typos, if you have disjointed information between Bing and Google and everything else, but if you're getting 15 reviews a day and people are just loving you to death, Google's gonna hug you all day long. It doesn't matter, right? So
like, this is what I try to tell everybody. This is why CTR, like honestly, I could rank a business in any niche in any location in America. I don't care if it's New York City. If I wanted to be unscrupulous and just drop reviews on it all day long and run CTR to it, right? Which just means that it's clicked through. So it's a bot that does a search on Google, that sees that maybe clicks on something before, backs out, and then clicks on my website, right? I can rank any business that way. It doesn't matter. And you can say, well, I'm running CTR too. Well, that's great. I'll keep turning it up until I win. And your review, your CTR cannot compete with my reviews,
right. And
right? And
CTR, to be clear to everybody, what you're talking and that mimics a user behavior, right? You're talking about an artificial
it's a
way to
bot,
push traffic,
right?
but we're making it look like real humans, which is why it's so
Right.
powerful, right? So,
Exactly. It's the end user again, right?
right.
Like the end user signals, like, just dominate, But what really crushes business today, truthfully, is when you have the end user signals match up all of your foundational work. But yeah, user generated signals are just super trusted because, um, again, it's the end user. It's what Google's trying to appease, right? And the feedback that it gets from it makes it just the biggest difference, because Google feels like it's not really tapped. But what I had mentioned before about, and why I had said that Google does things and it hurts real businesses is that, like, I'm not a big person on doing like fake reviews as a whole, right? Like, I'm not going to say that sometimes we can apply that, because like sometimes it happens, but it's always for businesses where they get attacked by like a former employee or something, and they leave a bad bunch of bad reviews, and we can't get the reviews off. And to be completely transparent, Google doesn't give a crap about that. Um, and so basically, it's just to get it back to where it was, and then we kind of say, okay, you're on your own, right? And we coach them how to respond to the review. Um, but I think it's poor form to leave reviews like that on businesses unless you're just doing it like it's a testing profile and you're doing it for testing purposes, and then later you remove them, right? Um, but with all that being said, Google does enough damage to these as it is, and it's their own babies. And in order to punish these people who do lead generation, like the last two reviews that we had, one being 2 weeks ago, one of the things that they did is they removed reviews, right? And my clients that are on that click through thing that we talked about, or CTR, right? They're all bounced back from where they were at before. And because we don't put fake reviews on, that means that all my clients lost real reviews, right? And, like I have clients call me and they're so angry and they're like, I know it's not you because I know you and I've tried to get you to do this and you won't. And, you know, but Google's really pissing me off and I don't care how much I have to pay you. I want, 30 reviews a week from now on. And I'm like, you're talking to the wrong cat because it's not what we do. That's not how I build business, right? You know, um, I mean, it
I mean,
works,
it's good to
but
know the tricks and to know that these things are capable, so you're not
yeah.
naive. But yeah,
Yeah,
having
but these
a
these are
boundary
real
to
reviews. Yeah, these are real reviews. Like I saw somebody lose between the last one and this time 20% of the reviews that they had at their highest point, right? And they were
that
legit,
hurts,
real people. And it does, and nobody's there from Google to answer for that.
right? But yet, to your point, you get one that's a disgruntled employee or some Karen or something that is completely irrelevant or manipulating it, and you're talking to nobody at Google that cares about it, right? We actually, I think yesterday on our team, we had one removed from that situation, a disgruntled employee that just blew it up. And it took a ton of us going in, right, to have the same opinion to Google to try to force it from the public standpoint. And I don't know when the last time we got one removed. This one did. We were just like virtually high fiving each other, like, awesome. We don't see that every day. It worked. So,
Think about like how much effort you have to go through because Google won't do its job, right? And so yeah, when it comes to the things that I see, I am a little angsty towards Google, right? It's not that I don't think that it's a decent search engine as a whole, but I just see some things where the local businesses get hurt and I get kind of protective. Um, and I mean, I love my job. I love watching businesses grow. I love teaching people about building pipelines and, like how does that translate? Because let's be honest, as marketers, I end up teaching sales as much as I teach anything else to these people. Um, and I'm okay with it, right? I get it. It's just part of the job. So when I see something come along and destroy something that somebody else has built, it makes me upset.
well, I think your point earlier about, and we talk about this on the show and all of our clients as well, coaching to get reviews. Like you can't just do the back of the receipt like Walgreens, like take our survey, give a review when you get a chance. No, you have to ask for it, coach them on what to say, and to put yourself out there and go through that, because that's painful for businesses to do that when they're not used to it, right? That's not exactly telemarketing, but you're in that same vein of uncomfortable sales asking, and then to have those wiped away, 6 months later, with all that work you put into it, your customers complying and helping you out and doing you a favor, poof, gone. Super frustrating. Super.
It has something to do with trust, obviously, right? Not just the trust of the profile that left it, but also the profile. Because Google, like like I'm never one that rushes to try to name a Google update, right? Like, the big publications, what's it, almost 2 years ago, wanted to name an update the proximity update. Well, the proximity didn't change. The only thing that changed was the weight factors. So you lost proximity, right? So it really wasn't a proximity update. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, what was it, in 2015, I think it was, 2014, whatever it was, one of those, where Google literally cut your proximity. That was a legit proximity update. You could rank for 50, 60 miles. And they were like, yep, no more. You got to buy ads if you want that. Right? That was a real proximity update. This last one wasn't. It just, they reweighed everything.
So I've I'm compromising a lot of your time. We should probably wrap it up here pretty quick. But before we do, I'd love to know if you've got a few other tips or tricks you can share with the audience in the same user generated signals realm, right? We talked about getting reviews from your clients. That's super strong. I think I mentioned either before we were recording or previous episodes, right? Getting people to use Google driving directions, things like that. You're telling Google directly, people care about you, you're engaged.
Yeah, that works. That works really cool. You know what I suggest people do, honestly, is especially business owners, go buy 50 emails, change the passwords in them, sign them up for things like Twitter and um, things, patch, things that's going to get them email coming in, right? I don't care if you never check that email, just have it coming in. Click it every once in a while. Maybe not 50, but get at least 30, right? And every day that you go into work, that you actually drive to a location, like this doesn't work for SABs, but every day that you drive to a location, I don't care if it's from your house that's 4 miles, right? Log into a new email on your phone, like do a hard restart on your phone. Like you can actually go into your options and wipe your history of your internet, log back into the internet like in Google with that new profile and make that drive, right? That's huge. Yeah, you're kind of cheating the system a little bit, but I mean, let's be honest, you got to drive to work anyways. And, you know, you're probably going to run that GPS because you don't want to get caught in traffic. So don't use Waze, you use Google Maps, right? And then,
All fair and love in marketing. I think any business owner listening, Michael, is going, yeah, I could do that and go to sleep at night just fine. That's not outside of my ethics. So
hey, we do things like we have people, ask friends, ask questions about your business. Just go in and ask it, right? Like it doesn't rank it, but what it does do is it's a user generated signal that's they're asking a question and then you answer it. Make sure you use keywords in that, right? Um, and then from home and those profiles, go to that on your phone, go to that business, make sure you're not connected on your personal Wi-Fi, make sure you're on mobile, and then upload a couple photos that you snapped with your phone earlier that day at the location. And that's cool too. So you get EXIF data. You don't get geotag, and I'm not going to go in depth what the difference is, but there is a difference. Um, and then so you just upload the photo, which because it geotags where it was at, right? And yeah, Google strips it out. I know, but let's be honest, they're big data, so they're going to look. Um, and like it's going to tell like things like where the phone, what kind of phone and the location and things like that. So it's those type of things make a difference, right? I think as long as you're not like a roofer in the middle of San Antonio or, because that's like hailstorm all over the place, like roof damage for things like that, or you're not a personal injury attorney or a locksmith in a big city or like the spammy niches, right? And if you are, reach out to somebody like Jesse or myself and we can show you some things that'll either move the needle or do it for you. So
I think kind of the moral of the story, a good summary for everybody to take away is if you can just look, experiment, or even just think about it, what are the ways that your clients, prospects, or the general public can interact, particularly with your GVP? And if you can either coach them or entice them to do that, or where you can maybe have different personas for yourself or different logins for yourself and also participate just like the, Joe Q public. These are signals sending to Google that are super valuable, right? So,
Yeah, I think the other thing is that you got to come up with email systems where if your clients won't ask you for ask you for or ask their clients for um, testimonials or reviews, then you have to do it. Like it's important because it's got to get done. And so, whether you set it up and go high level and you do a mass email from that or whatever, or drip feed it out so you don't get too many at one time, which truthfully, everybody thinks it matters. It doesn't. Like you could get 50 reviews in one day and then nothing for 3 days and then get two and nothing's going to happen.
okay. So you think it's just getting reviews, good quantity. Um, yeah, you're not worried about dripping them out at all.
Keyword and sentiment, keyword and
Okay.
sentiment. Yeah. Like if I challenge everybody to go look in the searches and pull up a business. And when you scroll up, like when you're in the map section and you click on it, you scroll up a little bit and they do a snippet of 3 reviews. Sometimes it's one bad one or two bad or three good ones, but whatever it is, if you look at it, each one of those reviews that they show has a sentiment in it, right? Like whether they're happy or they're thankful, you were, shared to anybody, anything like that. They all have that.
Which makes
They got
sense again if
real.
you're Google deciding how do we put up the algorithm to give some weight to certain reviews or things like this, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, these are the things
Yeah.
we're going to choose as programmers. Um,
Yeah.
I think that that's a ton of knowledge for everybody listening. Michael, is there anything else you wanted to add to this though, for other tips, tricks, or anything else to wrap it up?
The only thing I would say, like, for the marketers that that only scratches the tip of the iceberg. I think for regular business owners that, let's be honest, this is a full-time job all in itself. I would say definitely if you can afford it, find somebody that's good that you can trust. It doesn't have to be me because, I'll say, pardon my language for a minute, but it, I'm easy to get along with, but there's always that one person that goes, Michael, you're I don't like you. Right. And so I don't want to work with you. It is what it is. Not everybody gets along, right? And that's cool. I know when I interviewed a roofer that wanted me to help him, and he started bashing everybody that he's worked with before. The first thing my flags went up, and I was like, I don't know if I want to work with this guy, right? And then as things unfolded, it's just he's been burned a lot of times, and some of the times I guarantee he didn't get burned. He just didn't understand what was going on. So, right, you know. So yeah, so it's just a situation. But like I said, that's why it's not doesn't necessarily have to be me. Like it could be you, it could be the next guy down the street, right? But just make sure that they're very knowledgeable. They can offer you some type of case study that they've actually done the work, and let them do the work because you'll be much happier. You'll get better results faster than you will trying to do stuff yourself if you're a business owner. And again, that's not me trying to pull more traffic to me, but it's just what reality is. Like I wouldn't go redo my own roof, just to be honest with you, right? I'd go pay a roofer to do it because it would take me a very long time to go do my roof, and I don't want to climb up on top of it, and nor do I want to understand what the codes are and go pull permits and everything else.
Business owner, if you did that, or if a business owner listening is doing their own SEO and it's not something they're a true expert in, your time is better served doing something else, right? That you're actually productive in and contracting out that work, that somebody who's better at can do. Um, it just makes a lot of sense right there. So, if you wouldn't mind, Michael, share your details if people do want to reach out to you. And we'll link to all this in the show notes for this episode too for everybody listening. If you don't write this down or capture it, just check out the show page and we'll link it all. But Michael, where can they find you, whether it be LinkedIn, your websites? How do you want to get people, have them get hold of you?
So I'll share my Facebook profile with you to the crowd because I'm on Facebook all the time because most people communicate with me on there. So I'm there. Um, I'll share my email. It's just Michael, Michael at SEO, like search engine optimization, right? DC.net, not .com, but .net. So you can email me. Do know I only check my email probably twice a day. I do that on purpose. I'm not like most people that are just like waiting for bated breath with their emails. I got too much work to do. Um, and then those are probably the best ways to reach me, honestly. And, and it doesn't matter if it's another marketing company or something. Let's say they get a profile stuck and they need a second set of eyes. I'm always happy to help. I
And
did.
if somebody's interested in your, if somebody's interested in your white label, what's the best website for them to learn more about that
Yeah.
service?
So we have dominationsimplified.com. We have two packages. So one package is that they need help, right? So we actually help other agencies build seven-figure agencies. Total transparency, that's 2,500 down, and then it's 250 a month. You get mentorship, you get weekly classes, you get additional time with me. I help you set up ads. I help you set up landing pages. I show you why a website will convert, why it won't convert. I'll show you how to set up Facebook ads in a way where people message you on Facebook. So even if you're waiting for your website to be built out, it doesn't make any difference. They're going to message you there. And a lot of times we get our ad costs down for under $10 pretty easily. Not for white label, that's much more expensive, but for like just the client stuff, it gets under $10 pretty easily. And if you listen to me, you'll close a decent amount. So you'll close one, like even if it was bad, right? Like say it was $10 each and it took you 15 people to come in and you closed one. I mean, it's $150 acquisition cost. I mean, come on, that's a no brainer. I do that all day long, even for retail. Truthfully, I would spend up to $450 per acquisition cost in the fields that I work in and not blink twice. I would literally say, how much of a check do I need to write you today?
Right.
Right.
And that when you're getting that too, I mean, you're talking qualified leads and such too, which I think sometimes gets lost in the price for client acquisition metrics. Like how many crap phone calls did you go through on those cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
if it was
Oh, yeah.
cheaper, wasting your time. So
So, like to put it in comparison in a scenario like that, like if you were to go through a company like bark.com, right? I know SEOs use that. They sell that off to like five other people. And most of those leads sell from anywhere from $15 to $25 a piece, right? So A, you have to be the cheapest, and B, you have to be the first to contact them, right? Which sucks. So, and half the time, oh, by the way, and half the time, they're just thinking about SEO, even though they mark like ASAP, they're thinking about it. So they're not even sure. So, like truthfully, Facebook, you do have to filter, right? So it does take time. But if you take time to filter and you learn sales, selling SEO is not complicated. Everybody always says it sucks, and it's because they're not good at what they do, right? When it comes to the sales part of it. When you have people reaching out to you because they're interested in that type of service, it's a very easy sell.
I mean, inbound marketing, right? Which is what we do as search marketers for our clients is, yeah, we want people attracted to you so you don't have to reach out to them and remind them on why they should patronize you next time. So same thing.
Yeah, and truthfully, for that amount of time that I'm giving people, it's pennies. I do it because I love to do it and I love to give back. And I want to see quality SEOs out there instead of like, you know, I ask a company, have you ever worked with an SEO before? And they try to go on a 20-minute rant, right? And I got to cut them off at like 30 seconds. Be like, dude, I don't have time. Like, just, if I'm being a dick right now, I apologize. So yeah, it's a yes or no. If you don't, I get that you've been burned before. I apologize for that. It's one of the things I hate about our industry is it's smoke and mirrors, right? Yeah. So with that being said, this is one of those places that we talk about quality SEO stuff and we talk about everything from, well, in this space, we talk about everything SEO related from an agency space. But if they wanted to reach out to me and be like, hey, look, I was thinking about doing this affiliate site. What do you think? Like, I can help you with that, right? Because I play in that space. I play in national rankings, e-commerce, and all that because I find it enjoyable.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I'd challenge anybody listening. If you're thinking about it, check out Michael, find his information. If you're going to a conference and he's speaking, definitely check him out. I've been lucky enough to meet him a few times, hear him speak, talk to him in person, and Michael be on here today. Very smart, very trustworthy. You can have a lot of confidence, and yeah, if nothing else, you're going to learn something in a brief conversation.
Same happens
Not the
for
least.
Jesse over here. Not trying to cut you off, but like, come on.
No, I was just about to tell everybody if they can't think of anything to talk about, just ask Michael about how to make an old fashioned, and just just sit back and listen to it. And he might even run over and have the bartender
Right.
get a
What
lesson
what
from him on how to make one. So,
yeah, what type of variation do you want, or do you feel like
and
absolutely?
you'll be better off afterwards too. You'll be better off. So,
Tell me that old
um,
fashioned didn't get better after I had them fix it though.
yeah, that's a lot of truth right there. I would have downed another one or two either way, but way better after a little Michael
There you
Rayburn
go.
coaching with the bartender there. Anything else you want to drop, Michael, before we wrap it up for everybody?
No, I think that's it. I'll get you those links though, like to the website and to my profile. And so if somebody just
Awesome.
wants to reach out, and even if they just want to do a friend request and, ask me some questions along the way, I'm around. So
Awesome. You're the best. Appreciate your time on, Michael. Everybody, I hope if you're listening or watching, you learn some stuff. We'll have all Michael's information if you want to reach out to him. And appreciate you all checking this episode out. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, Michael.
thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks for sticking with that episode. Like I said, a little bit longer, but I hope you are happy you stuck with it and listened to the entire episode. I'm sure you got some information, some knowledge bombs from Michael, and hopefully inspired you to take some action and do some work on your website and improve things for your business. I appreciate you listening to this episode. If you like this and what we're doing here on this show, Local SEO Tactics, we'd love to get a review from you. Go out to localseotactics.com, scroll down to the bottom, click the button for reviews. We make it easy. You can link right there to Apple Podcasts, Google Business Profile, Google Podcasts, Facebook, wherever you want to leave a review. We're happy to get it. That's how we know we're doing a good job for the show and kind of close that feedback loop. And if you do leave one, we're going to read it, just like I'm going to read right here today from Theresa LPC. Says this, 5 exclamation marks. I don't know how to say that, right? This, I am beyond excited to have come across this podcast. As a tech challenged counseling practice owner, this podcast is easy to listen to and gives actionable advice. Well done. Thank you very much. That is, like I say all the time on these reviews, because they really echo what we're trying to do, which is a great reinforcement. This right here, right? We're trying to give actionable advice. I know there's some actionable advice in what we just talked with Michael and in future episodes. So thank you very much, Theresa, for your review. Everybody else, we'd love to hear from you. localseotactics.com. Scroll down, click the button for reviews, and we'll appreciate that. Thanks, everyone. Catch you on the next episode.